always, excuse the beeping. Trust me, I'm gonna get rid of that soon. Friday, when I get paid, I'll be able to get the upgrade and screen capture and do all that great things and get all this Cyberlink UCam 4. But yeah, A-DSplay here. I'm Azariel, and welcome to another episode of the wrap-up review series where I do unorthodox, unbiased, and unorganized reviewing. That's what I call it. I tried the little professional approach. It just naturally wasn't me. So all you're getting is the natural from me. I'm unnatural, unorthodox, unbiased, and unorganized with these reviews. So don't think that this is one of those professional reviews that you get with some other YouTubers that, you know, they sit there in front of the camera and they act like they're doing like an interview or something. Me, I'm just like, the way I treat my reviews is that I treat them as if I'm having a conversation with the person and I'm trying to explain these, like, the little details of the game. And that's just how I am. So the wrap-up review series where I review games that I've recently finished, and in this episode we're going to be reviewing Ben 10 Omniverse for the Nintendo DS. Now, Ben 10 Omniverse, from what I believe, is the third installment in the Ben 10 series. I believe like it was Ben 10, then it was Ben 10 Alien Wars or something like that, and now it was this one. Yeah, so first off, the game starts off with you inside the plumber's training room. Now, what the plumbers are supposed to be are these intergalactic space police, like within the series, and they're trying to run tests on the Omnitrix within the within the training room, and something goes wrong, something goes haywire, and you set on your journey to find out what the matter is with, like, what's wrong with the Omnitrix. Turns out that because of this monster by the name of Malware, he has done something to the Omnitrix and you have to defeat him in order to fix it. Pretty simple. One interesting thing about Ben 10 Omniverse is that they introduced this new partner for Ben 10 by the name of Rook. Now, I haven't seen this in the series yet, but in the game, he has this ability to travel back and forth through time, and in this game, he does that. Thus, you'll be able to play as how can I put it? The kid Ben 10 and the current form of Ben 10, his teenager self. I believe he's a teenager now. I'm not sure, but yeah, like, he travels back and forth through time, and you get to play as the kid version and this current version of Ben 10. Now, Ben 10 Omniverse for the Nintendo DS is a side-scrolling platformer, like beat 'em up style game where, like I mentioned, the whole point of the game is to you trying to get to Malware and defeat him so you can fix the Omnitrix. And as you play through this game, like, you'll be able to transform into 10, well, a total of, I'm not sure, but like, you'll be able to transform into 10 different monsters, even with Kid Tennyson and the current Tennyson. Like, you'll be able to transform into different monsters, and, you know, like, different monsters are fit, you know, are like better for different situations. For example, like, you have these, well, like, pretty much every stage is broken down like this. You have a platforming section where you have to jump, and you have the enemy encounters. Now, first, I have to explain the platforming section. when you get to these platforms, there are some platforms that light up. They have green ones and they have red ones, but they operate differently. With the green ones, in order for them to be activated, you have to attack them first, and then with the red ones, excuse me, throat kind of dry. Gotta love sweet tea. Anyway, with the red ones, they have a time limit on them. That when you jump on them, you have a few seconds before you have to jump to the next one. Now, as I was mentioning about the monster forms, different monsters fit like work better with different situations. For example, with the platforming section, they have monsters say like such as what was the name of that? Like Hot Shot. I think that's what the name of that fire monster was. Hot Shot. Though I could be wrong. And Crash Hopper. Who was like this tall alien grasshopper type monster, and like those guys, like they're pretty much the two that I would suggest using, like for the platforming sections in this game. Now, like with the enemy encounters, sometimes like you're more suited. I apologize, but yeah, like they are better suited for like monsters that I would say are like more aggressive in fights, such as like forearms, shock squatch, hot shot, etc. You have some monsters that are better suited for fighting, and then you have others that are like better suited for like platforming. However, they have monsters in this game that are across the board, they're pretty useless because like they don't really fit anywhere in particular in the game as the other monsters that I've mentioned, as well as some other ones. Like one unique thing about this game is that each of the monsters have their own life bar. Now, first let me explain that. Up top, you have a blue bar and you have a green bar. Now, what the blue bar is, of course, that's your life, and the green bar is your combo meter. Now, as you are attacking, this combo meter will build up, or sometimes after you break open certain boxes or like defeat enemies, like they will drop blue or green orbs. And of course, like the blue ones are for health and the greens are for the combo meter. And once the combo meter fills up, like you will be able to do a fully charged a special move that takes out all of the monsters that it hits. Now you can do it, like without the need of having the combo meter filled, but it won't be as strong. You know what I mean? So, yeah, like just forget that noise you hear in the background if you hear it. But yeah, like each of the monsters have their own life bar, so like you don't have to worry about losing while in this form, and then you'll like have to start over. No, like what happens is that the monsters, well, when you're in a monster form and that monster's life bar is depleted, he just reverts right back to Ben 10, and then you can go to another form. Now, let's get to the combat. The combat, the monster encounters. And with the monster encounters, there's a variety of monsters in the game. To a certain point, you have some monsters that, well, like how can I put them? You have the big monsters and you have the small monsters. With the small monsters, of course, like you can just combo them and like you can take them out. However, like with the big monsters, it's more so like you have to wait till they attack you, and then you have to either hit left trigger or right trigger to knock them off balance, and then that way, like you'll be able to combo them. But sometimes, like they have so many coming at you at once, like the big monsters. Sometimes you have so many come at you at once, and they do so much damage to the point that you can actually end up losing, because like you would pretty much be at an unfair advantage while going up against these guys. And you can see in my playthrough, like around, I say like part 11, part 12, 13, and like 14, then you could pretty much like witness this. And yeah, like it's just unfair. Now there are like a few boss battles in the game. I think it's like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, like 4 or 5 boss battles in this entire game, and none of them are really all that challenging. They're like, don't get me wrong, like some of them are fun, like to a certain extent, but for the most part they're very, very, very easy. And like there's hardly any to no challenge there while going up against these bosses, with the exception of the final boss fight. Now that's where it actually gets interesting, because like you have to face 2 bosses at once. Now that's kind of cool when you think about it. And like that was the better boss, well, like one of the, well, like the only boss fight that I can honestly say that really gave me a challenge. But however, like the one prior to that, when I was facing the yellow malware, I believe, he has this attack where like he extends all his fingertips out all the way across the screen. However, there's no way to block against it from what I can tell. I mean, maybe it was like something I didn't figure out, but from my experience, I couldn't see any way to block it. Like you couldn't jump over them or anything like that. It was almost as if like the game just expected you just to take those hits over and over again. The game didn't really explain itself that well. It did have a good tutorial. As far as like the storyline of the game, it was pretty straightforward and subpar. Like the monster forms in general, well, like I said, like I like the variety in the monster forms. However, what I would have liked to seen is that they use the monster forms in terms of like making them feel like you needed to use this monster form like more so than the other ones for certain stages. Because like I said, some of these monster forms are just straight useless. It's nothing really that challenging about the game. It's okay. And after I beat the game, it was this challenge mode that for some reason I couldn't access. Oh, I have to talk about the accomplishments. Every time you beat the game, after doing like a series of events, like you get an accomplishment. Now, what accomplishments are these upgrades that you get for doing certain things. For example, like you have to have like 5 enemy encounters like without taking any damage or something like that. Then you have to like it's random things, and every time you do that, you like pretty much gain an upgrade for doing those accomplishments. Now, of course, I didn't get all of them. Like at max, I got like 4 out of the like 4 out of the 16. And from what I can tell, in order for you to access that challenge mode, because I already had earned it, but I couldn't get none of the stages to work. Work. I couldn't enter any of the challenge stages. The reason being, from what I can tell, you need to get all of the accomplishments from the first playthrough of the game, which of course you can go back and play through all of the stages in order to get that. However, I didn't do that because I didn't feel like it was even necessary for me to go back and do all that again. But like from what I can tell, you need the accomplishments from the first run of the game, and of course you can go back and like redo all the missions. And after you get all those accomplishments, then you'll be able to access the challenge mode. The one thing I can say about this game is that it's very, very repetitive. The combat is subpar. I mean, there really isn't anything that challenging. Like, it's pretty much annoying at points because it's just so repetitive. You do a platforming section, and after that you have an enemy encounter. And that's how every stage is in this game. For the most part, every stage in this game is platforming, jumping, enemy encounter. They send a certain wave of enemies at you, and then you just continue. And like the combat isn't anything to brag about, so that just makes it even more blah, to say the least. Yeah, like this game, it's good if you're like a fan of the series and you want to just play it. However, this game did come out on home consoles, so I would suggest just getting it on one of those instead of this, because of course they got to water down the Nintendo DS version of everything if they have any console releases. In order for them to bring it to a handheld system such as the Nintendo DS, they have to like water it down and like take out certain features. Like, it was certain monsters that I couldn't turn into that you can turn into in the console versions. So yeah, so Ben 10 Omniverse for the Nintendo DS, I would give this like a 4.5 out of 10. It's not all that great. It's very subpar. I would advise you to get this for a home console instead of the Nintendo DS. The combat is bland. It's repetitive. It gets boring. It's the same wash, rinse, repeat cycle, and it's just not all that, so, and unless you're some type of completionist, you're really not going to want to bother with playing back through those stages in order just to find out what these challenge modes are. But if you are, then there's some extra hours that you can probably get out of the game. I think at maximum I've played like 2 hours and 20 minutes of this game, and I pretty much beat the entire storyline. That's how short it is. So factoring in all of that, the monster encounters, the platforming sections, everything, graphics, sound, all of that good junk. 4.5 out of 10 for the Nintendo DS version. I'm pretty sure if somebody had the console version, you know, like maybe they would give it like a higher score because they have more to offer in those console versions. But for the Nintendo DS, it's really nothing to brag about. So yeah, that's it. And before I forget, on part 11, I believe, either part 7 or was it part 11? It was one of the two. I can't remember. I put up an annotation to let you know that some of the gameplay footage ended up not being uploaded with the rest of it. Here's the reason why. I was trying to reformat the videos in Windows Movie Maker, and something happened with some of the footage. It wasn't anything like big and drastic, but like you're gonna see a big skip from, well not a big skip, but like a skip in the action from like part 6 to part 7, I believe. And yeah, so what happened to that gap of footage right there. Windows Movie Maker fucked it up, and I couldn't recover it, so I just gave you guys what I had, unfortunately. But you know, like the game, it's fun to a degree, but it's just not fun enough for me to give it like a 5 out of 10. It gets a 4.5. It's okay if you're a fan of like Ben 10. I'm pretty sure you'll give it a higher score, but it's just not worth it. Again, if you want to get this game, I suggest trying to get it for a console version. For the Nintendo DS, I wouldn't recommend you buy it. But hey, your money, do what you want. But yeah, so I'm gonna wrap this up. Wrap up. Again, this is Unorthodox, Unbiased, Unorganized reviewing. I'm Azariel, and see you guys for the next A-DSplay. Peace.